What's going on, guys? It's Groove back again with another Bitcoin video. And now we're about to be breaking down this Parallel book by Brian DeMint. Parallel, the Bitcoin social layer. So what does that mean? What does he mean by parallel? So what he's talking about is a parallel system to the one that we live in currently right now. It's a world where Bitcoin ignites a fundamental shift in society and how we live right now. Like, why would we need this? Why do you want to do that? Well, currently right now, we pretty much live in a slave society. We live on, each country is like a plantation, and we have to live on this plantation and follow the rules and work for their money. And this is why so many people are trying to run away from their current plantation to get to America, because right now America is like the best plantation on the planet. He kind of breaks down how just having a fundamental shift to a Bitcoin world and what that would mean by living on Bitcoin and having that in our lives, we would no longer need to run away from the current plantation that you're living on to get to the better one, because this money is global, and so you would be working for the same value no matter where you lived, and kind of like what that would look like. Then he starts to kind of break down each section about like how we even get there and why we may be moving to this new world. So with that, this isn't just a book about transactions or what is Bitcoin. It's more of an exchange of ideas or values and what living in a borderless world would look like. So with this Storm of All Storms chapter, we're at a time right now when the world is about to change. Usually it only takes one storm to do this, but right now we have 4 storms happening all together. Back in the 90s, the internet was one of these storms. It was a technological storm, and the internet changed life forever. And they couldn't see it back then. They were just like, okay, cool. This thing, I can send a message to somebody across the world. All right, that's cool. But today, you can't live without the internet. Everything we do is attached to the internet. The way we work, the way we play, the way we order groceries online, the way we date, the way we work from home. Everybody's just working online now. Podcasting is going crazy. You cannot go outside today or do anything in this world without the internet. And that's just one storm. The other 3 storms are the sociological storm, the political storm, and the economic storm. Again, each one of these storms on their own can change society, but all 4 of them are happening at once right now. So when it comes to a paradigm shift, it's not bad. It's just a change in the way that people do things in society for stability. Some paradigm shifts have allowed for human flourishing, while others have led to corruption and just the hurting of mankind altogether. In this current paradigm that we live in, the established powers have pretty much built this prison, this most sophisticated prison, if you will, where everybody that is in this paradigm is a prisoner, and you don't even know that you're a prisoner. As we have to go out into the world and produce things and give value to the world, we are paid with fake money. That money goes down over time. And so as you're going out into the world, expending energy, expending time, expending your life, you're paid with something that is continuously going down by people that get it for free, and they can create it whenever they want to for themselves. Again, most people don't understand this, and yet they know that there's something wrong. They just don't know what it is, and you can see it. It's getting worse and worse and worse today. Nobody can afford a house. Getting a degree at some university doesn't work anymore. Gen Z doesn't want to leave the home. Millennials are trying to run back to their parents' house. It's bad outside. Nobody really trusts each other. And it's just this paradigm that we're in right now is not a good one. This storm is happening right now that it's about to change the whole thing. So when it comes to these storms are pretty much like revolutions. Now, again, they don't have to be bloody or crazy or violent. It's just a shift in the paradigm and the way we do things. So when it comes to these revolutions, there's 3 key ingredients that you need. First, you need people who actually want the change. 2, you need a social layer that connects all of them. And 3, there must be a technological advancement that allows them to make the change. And he said these elements are found in every revolution going through history. And he talks about the American Revolution. When we hear about the American Revolution, all we think is, okay, the people that were in the colonies, they didn't like being controlled by the British, and so they all wanted the revolution. And he talks about how John Adams wrote a letter in 1813 saying that only 1/3 of the people in the colonies wanted the revolution. So another 1/3 didn't care, and the other 1/3 wanted to actually be a part of the Brits. He says this to really hamper down that you don't need everybody to want the change. You only need a small group of people to actually make a change or to want to see things different. And I thought that was pretty interesting because, again, when you just hear the American Revolution, you just think everybody was in on it. Everybody didn't want to be controlled. And he's like, no, John Adams said, hey, there was only a small group of people in the colonies that wanted to change. And that actually sparked the change in the revolution. And that's how we got to where we are today. You know, a lot of people may say, like, oh, things are bad outside, but what can we do about it? We don't have any power. But that's wrong. Free individuals cooperating amongst each other with technological advancements have the power to take down centralized powers. Like, we are the kryptonite. And you see that today. This is why so many people, or not really so many people, but you kind of see it on the news a lot lately. So much censorship for, you know, social media and podcasting and YouTube, and the mainstream media is like, oh, you shouldn't listen to them, or anything you hear online is misinformation and you can only listen to us. Like, they are just reiterating what the central powers want them to say, and they don't want you to be free or to get information that isn't censored. Like, they're trying to clamp down on it. And again, we have this technological advancement of the internet to be able to wake each other up or to help each other. He also brings up a great example other than the American Revolution. He talks about the printing press. Before the printing press, the church was the centralized power. They had all the money, they had all the dogma, the tradition. They were the only ones that could really like tell you the word of God and how things were supposed to be and how you were supposed to live your life. But then the printing press came around and pretty much just like threw that whole idea out. And they tried to fight it at first too. The church was like, no, get this out of here. But you couldn't stop that technological advancement. And so now everybody was able to get a copy of the Bible and interpret their faith as they wanted to. And not only that, other books of everything else started to come about. Like, there were medical texts that now came out. And so even if you never got a copy of a book, even if you weren't one of those people who were able to read, everybody benefited, because if you got hurt, now you could go to somebody who understands how to, you know, treat your medical illness or whatever, you know, whatever's wrong with you, because they read the book. And so everybody got a software update. And even if you didn't take part in that and was able to get books and start reading and start learning, you still benefited from the people that did. Another interesting fact about that time period that he brings up, he says, as the church was trying to squash the printing press, instead of them just printing up books about all different things, they started to print up books about how to make a printing press. So it's like, as you try to squash something, as you try to ban it, you only accelerate it in society. Once the church finally realized that they couldn't stop this new technology of the printing press, they ended up accepting it and embracing it. And now the Bible is is the most bought book in human history. And they made a lot of money off of that. These centralized powers that usually try to fight a new advancement or a paradigm shift end up being pretty much sucked into it anyway. That is the lesson of this storm, is that as these nations try to quote unquote ban Bitcoin or not accept it, the longer they wait around and instead of actually embracing it, the worse they're gonna be. But eventually they will accept it. With storm 2, we go into the cycles, the political cycles, the financial cycles, the cycles of nation states. So a political cycle usually lasts about 250 years. A financial cycle usually lasts about 80 years. And a digital cycle usually lasts about 50 years. And so about 250 years ago, the Industrial Revolution arose, and since then we've been building nation states. And then 80 years ago, or roughly around that, after World War II in Bretton Woods, this is when money started to centralize. And then 50 years ago is where about like this digital technology came about with the internet. And then we took off from there. So all three of these cycles are pretty much aligning right now. Or if you want to look at the other side of that, they are coming to their end right now. Each one of these gives a paradigm shift on their own. With all three of them about to change at the same time, we're about to see something in this world that we've never seen before. Again, everything is about to change. I'd say by like 2030, we got another 6 years until this world, the 2030s, are going to look completely different than they do right now. The Storm 3 is something called the fourth turning. And so this is society as a whole has a shift around every 80 years. And people have went back and looked at different times in society, and this is all kind of happening again. And we're about to end again this fourth cycle right now. And so each cycle lasts about 20 to 22 years. So this first cycle that lasts about 20 years is a cycle of prosperity. So the first 20 years you have prosperity. And then the next 20 years you have the rise of individualism. And then the next 20 years after that, you have kind of like a breakdown in institutions. And then the fourth cycle, the last 20 years of the 80-year cycle, you kind of have a crisis and everything kind of starts to break down and crumble and again rechange. He says that you can also see this in the old age adage of hard times create strong men. So that would be the first one. And then strong men create good times. And then that would be the second one. Then good times create weak men. That will be the third one. And then weak men create hard times. That would be the fourth cycle. People are outside saying that we are in the fourth cycle right now, and it started in 2008. And we're coming up on that 20 years, which would be 2028 or roughly around there. Maybe a little bit after. This is when things start to break down. There's a crisis in society. Everybody's weak. Things are failing. And if you really like pick your head up and look outside today, you can see like everybody's depressed. Everybody's got mental health issues. Nobody wants to do anything. Nobody wants to work. You can see that we are in that fourth turning right now. So with this fourth storm, it talks about the death of currencies. All fiat currencies die. Every single one of them. And we are on a fiat currency right now. And they all die. So the average lifespan of a fiat currency is 27 years. And the average or the upper limit of that is 48 years. A lot of people will sit there and say, or the establishment, the mainstream media will say that, well, the United States dollar has been around for over 100 years. And so has the British pound or the Japanese yen. But he says that's a bad way to measure it because those currencies were all backed by gold. All up until 1971. Right now, we are technically at the upper level. So once you break out of 1971, we're at, what is that, 53 years right now in 2024? So we are past the upper limit of these currencies. You can tell everything is bad. Like, if you've watched the news, we're printing more money than ever. Our debt is going crazy all around the world. It's really bad, and it's like, we're teeter-tottering right now with our currency, and they're just going to keep printing more and more money, and everybody's hurt. Everybody's in debt. Nobody can afford anything outside. People are just like, I can't put food on my table, and that's because the money is just so bad, and it's breaking down right in front of our faces, but most people can't see that. They just know that I can't afford a house, I can't afford this, or I have $250,000 in student loan debt. How am I ever going to pay for this? Please help me. Again, the money is so bad right now. It's because we're at the upper levels of this fiat system that we live in. So he ends the chapter by saying that, with all of these storms brewing all at the same time, change is inevitable. It is coming. And that Bitcoin was created 15 years before this change could get here. And it is kind of crazy that Bitcoin came to change this financial landscape. Right now, at the end of 2024, well, November-ish, it's almost at $100,000 and nobody owns it. Imagine what happens when more people own it, 5% of the world, 10%, 15%, what the price will look like. And he just talks about how lucky we are right now that all of these storms are happening at the same time, and we're here to actually see it and take advantage of this thing. That's pretty much it for this chapter. I really like this chapter. Again, it's an introductory on what the heck is going on outside, and that there's a bunch of storms happening all at the same time, and we can kind of take hold of it and take advantage of it, and we don't have to be left behind and just be blown outside in the storm while it's happening, like what's going on. We can actually get ahead of it and use this as an opportunity to be better in the future, to see what's coming, and to make that change and to go with it and get ahead of it, if you will. And so yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hit a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.